Do you have questions concerning planning a Disney trip? Ask them live on the show or submit them on our website at patmdisneytravel.wixsite.com/planning.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Matt with the DPI podcast. It's Monday. We're here. We're going to talk some Disney stuff, as much as there actually is right now. But, yeah, I don't know. It's the pre-show. You guys know how I am normally in the pre-show. Kind of a Debbie Downer this week. I mean, it's D23 week. We should be super excited about what's coming to the parks and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just not. So, we'll get into it and kind of talk a little bit about what's going on. I mean, in all reality, there is a lot going on. Disney is announcing a lot. They're just not doing it at D23, which is really, really weird. So we're going to get into a bunch of the things that they've announced. We're going to get into a bunch of the things that we thought we were going to get at D23 that apparently we're not. We're going to talk a little bit about how Ravensburger is kind of effing up the Fabled launch. It's a lot of cluster Fs this week, so I'll probably be soapboxing. I'll probably complain quite a bit, so just be ready for it. But no, other than that, we're going to talk Disney. It's better than talking about other stuff. I mean, there's a lot worse things in the world that we could be talking about right now. So yeah. So let's get into the show. We do have a good show. Like I said, we've got plenty to talk about. We've got plenty to complain about. We'll just kind of see where it goes tonight. So, all right. Let's get into the show. Hi, I'm Matt. Welcome to Disney Planning Insights. Through creative content and live shows, we explain the hidden details of the Disney experience so that our clients can execute memorable adventures. Together with Princesses and the Mouse Disney Travel, we have helped hundreds of clients plan, book, and prepare for magical Disney vacations. Let our experience help you avoid common planning mistakes and maximize the enjoyment on your next Disney trip. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is Matt with the DPI podcast. It is Monday, August the 25th. It is Destination D23 week, and I don't know that we could be more disappointed. Honestly. Before we get into a bunch of the news and talk about why we're disappointed with Destination D23, let's, shout out to our one subscriber that made himself public this week, Joshua Duke Sarmiento. I probably butchered that, but thank you very much for subscribing to the channel over on YouTube today. Bruce Lockwood 450 over on Twitch. How you doing? I'm doing well. How are you doing? Yeah, so Disney, Ravensburger. Man, it's been a week for you guys. I'm from Indianapolis area. Viral Streamers 0. Hello. Hey, how you doing? Days are going well. This is the Disney Planning Insights podcast. So we are talking some Disney from the UK. Nice to have you on over on Twitch, Bruce. So yeah, it's just one of those things, I want to start by talking about D23. We have talked about D23 pretty incessantly for about the last 2 months. And it's one of those things that depending on who you're talking to, you get different answers about what is actually going on. Yeah, I do have a YouTube channel, Disney Planning Insights, over on YouTube, Bruce. You talk to some people and it's like, yes, Destination D23, the D23 that they have in Florida is not of the same scope that the D23 that they have in California is. And I think we understand that. Which subscriber do you have on YouTube? How many? 1,300 subscribers over on YouTube right now. So, Florida understands that. But you have another group of people that come out and say, well, they don't announce anything over on Destination D23. And they do. They announced the Tropical Americas project at Destination D23. They announced Test Track 3.0 at Destination D23. So, no, I do not have an editor for my YouTube channel. I do everything myself. I work off of a Stream Deck and have kind of created everything myself. So you've got Destination D23 coming up this week. And going into it, there are so many projects out there right now that Disney could give updates on, and they could give new artist renderings, and they could do all that kind of stuff. And they have just decided not to do that this year. Now, granted, and like I said, we do have a lot of Disney news because they announced a lot of that stuff this week. But 2 years ago, when it was in Florida, they announced some cruise ship stuff in the week leading up, but left the big announcements for Destination D23. This week, they feel like it's completely flipped. They're doing all the big announcements now, and then when D23 comes, they're just going to be like, whatever. So, yeah, I don't know that I really need a designer or an editor for the channel. This is a fun endeavor. So it's one of those things that, I learned how to do all this stuff myself during COVID and have just kind of figured things out as we've gone. So like all my back screens, all my beds, everything like that is made in DaVinci. So yeah, I just kind of do it all myself. So yeah, it's a lot of time, but to me, I'd rather spend the time on it myself than pay somebody else to do it. Even if they could do it faster and take the time off of my plate. The time's not a huge deal for me right now. Because most of the stuff that I do long form is like either static shot or I'm cutting shots that I've already done. So yeah, I've got my plates already built. So, I've got intro plates, I've got outro plates, all that kind of stuff already built. That makes it really easy. So, you need help me edit anything or design anything? No, honestly, Bruce, I'm good right now, man. I'm good. But yeah, so yeah, for you over on the YouTube channel, I've got Bruce Lockwood over on Twitch. So if you follow me over Matt_DPI on Twitch, we've got a guy over there wanting to be my editor or wanting me to give him something to edit. I don't know. Or her something to edit. But yeah, so getting back to D23. So D23, Disney announces basically everything at the end of last week. And it's just like, okay, so everything that you could have announced, except for maybe, hey Monique, good to see you over on the YouTube side. How are you doing? So yeah, Disney announces everything last week. So we get an update on Muppets Rock and Roller Coaster. We get an update on Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin. We get an update on Big Thunder Mountain. And it's just one of those things like, those were a lot of the things that we figured were going to get presented at Destination D23 that just kind of got left out now. They're not going to say anything about it. Now, the big one, there's two big ones hanging out there right now. You're going to get stuff from around the world. They've got these, around the world panels that are going to be kind of giving updates on, like, how's the Spider-Man project going and how's the World of Frozen project going and all that kind of stuff. But when you think about what's going on in the States, you've got 3 projects now that they really haven't come out and talked a whole lot about the last 2 weeks. Villains Land at Magic Kingdom, the Avengers Campus expansion at Disney California Adventure, and then the Cars Land thing at Magic Kingdom. Those are the 3 kind of projects that they really haven't talked a whole lot about. Monsters, yeah, but I don't know that they're at a point where they can really talk about Monsters a whole lot. But we're getting stuff about, the Tropical Americas and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's great to see that you've been good, Monique. Great to hear. Great to have you stop by. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. The villains panel thing, bringing the villains and the art of villain to the park is an interesting panel, and then they black it out on the D23 Gold Member Theater. It's like, again, 2 years ago, and even last year I stayed up and I watched a live stream of the parks panel. This year, I don't really care. And for me, for somebody that talks about Disney every week, I talk about Disney 50 weeks a year, and on the 2 weeks that I don't talk about Disney, I'm probably talking about Disney to somebody within my family or my friend group. And I'm not excited about what this weekend holds for Disney. And that's a really, really crazy place to be as a fan of the park's product. We got on here about a month ago and did a D23 preview show. And I was really certain that, hey, I've got good information. This is kind of what we're going to get. And then Disney comes out and does what they did 3 weeks ago with the panel announcement and just basically threw everything on its head. Now, again, we're going to talk about some of the things that are coming. Big Thunder Mountain. Cool upgrades. Not the expected upgrades, but it was kind of in line with what could have been done. And I think a lot of people were on the right path there. Space Ranger Spin, they basically came out and told us everything at the beginning, what they were going to do there. I am still 100% on Tomorrowland 2030 project. I really think that is the next major, complete revamp of a land. You figure they've already done Fantasyland, they've already done the Casey's Junior Circus area, they're getting ready to put a huge change into Frontierland. All that's left is Tomorrowland now. Unless you're going to reconfigure kind of that area back by the Rapunzel bathrooms and mess with Small World and Peter Pan, which they won't. If they're smart, they won't. Then you're gonna go to Tomorrowland next. And what does that mean? Well, I think what it means is they need to figure out, how do you handle Tomorrowland Speedway? Because as a ride type, you need to have that in your park somewhere. I really think if they could interweave it with the new Cars ride, and make a low thrill and a medium thrill, high medium thrill ride weave together, I think best of both worlds. You utilize the terrain, you utilize the scenery. You're just building a secondary ride system through your Cars ride. Now you've got 2 rides there. You've got people eaters back in that area. That allows you to completely demolish Tomorrowland Speedway, and then you've got all that land there to do whatever you want with it. Now, granted, I think you open it up, you put maybe one show building blocking more towards the Casey Jr. Circus area and the teacups, and then make that really wide open through there. Maybe a update to the People Mover, bring a new show or a Stark Flight Lab type ride into the Laugh Floor building, because you know Laugh Floor is going to Hollywood Studios at some point. It's going to happen. So once you do that, then you start tearing down Space Mountain and rebuilding it, a la what you're doing in Tokyo right now. And then I think you've got something there. And I think this is, a build up to, like I said, 2030. You have Cars Land, you have Villains Land, and then you have Tomorrowland. And there's, 2034, basically the oldest part of your park is 20 years old again, which is New Fantasyland. So, yeah. It works, but we'll see. And then they released more information. Spaceship Earth is down for a general maintenance. I would love to see the Spaceship Earth project come back. I would love to see the Cherry Tree Lane project come back. I think those are 2 areas that could use some love. I would love to see the fiber optic glow up for Spaceship Earth that was teased a few years ago. And then give the UK something to pull people the other way from the backside of the park. I think when you think about people coming in the Skyliner and then all of the Boardwalk area resorts, they're going to Rat Ride. And I think if you gave them another option, if you did a Mary Poppins slow ride or a Mary Poppins attraction in the UK pavilion, then you have a way to split that crowd up a little bit and work your traffic flow a little bit more even around World Showcase. Because right now they go into Rat Ride and then they make that trek across the top side, across in front of the Americas Pavilion and all that kind of stuff, and work their way around to Mexico. Well, now you're getting the UK and Canada there, and they're really not seeing any traffic, and you need to figure out a way to, how do you upgrade that flow to get people going around that way now? If you're smart, you come in the park from the back, you go around that way, and then you go up and you hit like Soarin' and stuff like that, and then work your way towards the back, because everybody hits Rat Ride from the back of the park early. So yeah, so let's get into some, I guess, news. I mean, it's all news. So let's start here, because I think this is something that we've been following all summer. Touring Plans, at Touring Plans, great Twitter X follow if you don't already follow them. Walt Disney World just had one of the slowest weeks of the year. Again, this was for last week. Will the trend continue? Peter and I talked about this in the fall last year. Okay? Disney ran into a problem because they relied on COVID money. And it sounds weird saying that way, so let me kind of explain myself. Okay? So you had all these people that booked during COVID, for a time during COVID, and it got canceled, and they got a refund, or they got a credit, or they got moved to another date. Well, when that happened, and I'll take my experience for a little bit here. We lost a cruise during COVID. We had a cruise scheduled, and COVID happened, cruise didn't go. Okay, so we booked. Well, first if we kept a credit instead of taking our money back, we got 50% more back. So we got our money and a half back for the cruise. So when we rebooked, we looked for the same cruise, and at the time when we rebooked, it was the same price. Rebooked, and we rebooked for it was 9 months. No, it was a year later. It was spring break to spring break is what we did. And that cruise got canceled. Now, we didn't get the same deal on that because they were right on the edge of reopening. It was just, hey, we can push to another cruise. So we rebooked, and it was from there it was 15 months. We went from middle of March to early June of the following year, which wasn't a big deal. I mean, wasn't a huge deal at all. But what that did is you think about that, our original cruise was booked for 20. We rebooked for 21, and we ended up going on the cruise in 22. And with as far out as some of these people had to rebook, Disney basically gave you a year and a half almost to rebook. So that took, parks opened in July of 20. You basically had until September of the next year to rebook. Well, what that did is it basically built in an extra trip for a lot of people. And by building in an extra trip for a lot of people, what I mean is they were able to save to either extend the trip that they had to push, or be able to go on a whole nother trip because they missed their original trip. And that kind of lingered into the early part of 2024. We started to see that shift in 25. Everybody was using their COVID relief money. Everybody was starting to feel the effects of what COVID actually did. And as 2024 dragged through, we kind of started seeing the markers of 2025 just being a brutal attendance year for Disney. And we started talking about that. Hey, if you have the ability to go, summer 2025 and beyond was going to be optimal to go because you were going to run into significantly lower crowds. And we could see that from the booking standpoint. And we told a lot of people about this. And everybody was like, no, Disney's fine. Disney's going to be able to go and they'll continue just the way they are. And they haven't. Now, I think there's a couple things at play here, and we've talked about it a few times. The first is people just don't have the expendable income right now. There's a lot of people that just don't have the expendable income, The other thing is, I think a lot of people are mad at Disney right now. Disney as a company. Disney as Walt Disney World as a theme park. You have a lot of Disney diehard fans saying, hey, Universal just did this. What was your response? What is your response? What will be your response? And I don't think a lot of people are happy with the way that Disney has so-called responded to Epic Universe. Now, there's a whole nother side of the story where people are saying, well, Epic Universe was Universal's response to Galaxy's Edge and Toy Story Land and Pandora and all this stuff. And I don't think it was. I think Epic Universe was, we're putting a third park in. We're putting in a new gate. Disney, the ball's in your court. I don't think they cared about Galaxy's Edge. I don't think they cared about Pandora. I don't think they cared about Toy Story Land. Because if you look at it, they put 2 more lands in there. So you can take all of those lands, combine them, and Epic Universe is still bigger. So this is one of those things that I think you're going to have that debate between Disney factions for a long time on, was Epic Universe a response to what Disney was doing, or is Disney needing to respond to what Universal did? It's a really interesting question. But right now, the fan response to Disney is, it's just not worth going. It's not worth the price. There's construction everywhere. You know, every park has construction except for Epcot. And that's Epcot coming off of 5 years of construction. So, yeah, it's just, I think you've got a lot of people that are just disenfranchised with Disney right now. So, now one thing that we've seen, and you know, the cruise lines have been kind of the oddball out, because the cruise lines have done pretty well. I mean, given kind of the significant drop in tourism as a whole, the cruise lines have done really well. And Disney Cruise Line's fall 2026 and early 2027 sailings are open for Castaway Club Pearl members now. So if you want to go out and check some of those out, you can get into some of the early bookings and check that out. You know, you do have a new ship coming this fall, winter in the Destiny. And you've got the Adventure that's going to be going out of Singapore. So a couple of new ships that are setting sail this year. And they're going to bring a bunch more. You know, the cruise lines are going to grow. And I think the cruise lines are insulated from tourism as a whole, because the cruise lines are the people that are cruisers are a special breed. People that like to cruise a lot, and they're okay with that being their vacation. You know, for somebody like me and my family, we go a lot of different places, but for cruisers, they get on cruise ships and they go. And a lot of them do Disney cruises. But I mean, across the board, for the most part, cruise lines have done, I won't say great, but they've done considerably better than the tourism industry as a whole. So, this is something interesting. It's from Scott Gustin this morning. On Wednesday, Disney will share a YouTube video titled "Exclusive Journey on The Little Mermaid: Ariel's Undersea Adventure," featuring Jodie Benson and Lauren Polly during a ride through of The Little Mermaid: Ariel's Undersea Adventure at Disney California Adventure. So I had to respond, it's only authentic if they get stuck by Sebastian in the under the sea scene. Because if you ride that ride and don't get stuck there, that is a successful ride of Ariel's Undersea Adventure. 100%. This one. I need to click into this one. Just because it gives me kind of what's going on. Okay. So let's talk about what Disney released over the last week. Because they did release a ton of stuff. And then we'll get into the Ravensburger thing, because I want to get nice and warmed up before I kind of go off on RB this week. So let's start with Big Thunder Mountain Railway. Big Thunder Mountain has been undergoing a complete retrack. And a lot of us had thought during this retrack that they were going to add something in the caves. You know, if you go to Disney California or Disneyland in California, when you go into that final lift hill, they have the dynamite scene in that final lift hill. And that's kind of what we thought was coming to the one in Florida. And Florida is getting its own kind of special cavern effect, where it's going to have a rainbow cavern that is going to turn red, and it's really like the angering of the spirits, so you really have to understand the ride story to kind of get the effect. But you're going to go into these rainbow caverns, there's going to be a storm, the caverns are all going to turn red. It's going to be a neat little effect, and it's going to be World's answer to the dynamite scene in Land. Okay, cool. More Big Thunder Mountain, more Big Thunder Mountain, more Big Thunder Mountain. Retract's going to be done in 2020. Well, the retract's done. Ride's going to reopen in 2026. They haven't really given a whole big date yet, but 2026. Something else that's happening in 2026, and Shannon, you might want to get Braden close to the phone for this one, because Smuggler's Run is getting this Mandalorian and Grogu overlay, and we've known this has been coming for a long time, and it's going to connect with the 2026 movie. Now, what makes this fun is, in the past, the best places to be in Smuggler's Run were the pilots and the gunners. The pilots get to run the ship into rocks and all kinds of stuff. At least that's what my family does, because my wife and my daughter cannot fly the Falcon. And the gunners get to shoot things. Makes it fun. Engineers just get to push buttons, fix the ship, make sure you get the coaxium, that kind of stuff. Well, in the new overlay, the engineers are going to get to talk to Baby Yoda. And not only are they going to get to talk to Grogu, they are going to get to choose the adventure for each flight. So they will choose what task you are doing for that flight. So there will be different, the flight plan has been the same since Smuggler's Run has opened, except, you can get it into Wookiee mode if you know how to do that. But this is going to give you the ability to choose between different scenarios. And the engineer has that power, which is going to be really cool. So the engineer seat becomes something that is more valued. It's a better ride experience. And now all 6 seats have some say in the actual experience, which is cool. So look for that sometime in 2026 as well. Rockin' Muppets. So Rockin' Roller Coaster is getting a retheme. It's going to close later this year, maybe. I don't know that they've announced that yet. Have they? Yeah, they've announced. Backstory, Scooter. I don't remember if they have or not. Very, very brain dead on this one. So, Muppets Rock and Roller Coaster. New ride cart and new backstory, new studio scene, that kind of stuff. They're also going to be bringing in animatronics. So Scooter, if you remember Scooter from the Muppets, Scooter from a lot of different things. I remember Scooter from D23 a couple of years ago. And a couple of the Penguins are going to be animatronics in the studio room, which is really, really cool. If you remember the studio room for Aerosmith's version of Rock and Roller Coaster, it was a neat little experience. This is going to be cool too. You're going to have Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem in there. And Scooter and the Penguins are actually going to be animatronics. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, the ride itself isn't changing a whole lot. It is 100% superficial. It's going to be, in the soundtrack. It's going to be in the visuals, but the ride experience isn't changing any. Disneyland ends an amenity. So basically, the early theme park entry at Disneyland and Disneyland California Adventure is going to end as a program. Those were locals parks. They still are. I mean, they're locals. They're locals parks. They don't get the diehard, I've got to do everything I can in a day crowd like Disney World does. So it's not one of those things that is super going to be super missed. But if you are staying at one of the Disneyland Resort hotels, so Pixar Place, Disneyland Resort, or Grand Californian, you will be able to pick a Lightning Lane multi-pass option of your choice as your free amenity instead. So you can pick one of those rides and basically, hey, you get a Fast Pass again. Hey, look, we're bringing back Fast Passes because you know what? That was a terrible idea to take away. So that's doing that. Pixar Place is losing its entrance to Disneyland, so you're going to have to go through the Grand Californian. I don't know that that's a huge deal. Disneyland 70th is going to have a show. That'll be interesting. I was kind of rambling here because I'm really trying to get myself ready for this Lorcana thing, because we'll get into it, Okay, so Fabled releases this week. Fabled is Lorcana's newest release, and it is the first that is going to be what they're going to call post-rotation. So rotation, they're rotating cards out of the playing pool for what they call core constructed, which is kind of their major event, their only event right now, because Infinity isn't a thing yet until they say it's a thing. So we've got this whole rotation thing, and we've got a set of cards that is mainly reprints. I mean, 85% of the set is reprints. So, there was some back and forth about was this going to be a good set to buy boxes? Was it going to be a single set? All this kind of stuff. And I think it was a pretty good 50-50 split. I think a lot of people were disappointed at how many reprints there were. I think more people were disappointed at them using the original artwork of the cards and not changing the artwork, not giving you, a different art styling, not going with the styling of Fabled itself. This is the first set that's really not going to have a theme per se in the art of the cards. Utilizing the original art, they're getting art from the first 4 sets, a little mix of art from the first 4 sets, which was really weird because they did reprint cards in the last set. They reprinted Captain Hook and they reprinted the Dalmatian puppy card in the last set with new artwork. So it's kind of weird all around. But, we start getting rumors from local game stores I'm in the Indianapolis area, we'll say, that, hey, product isn't coming in like we expected. And then we start hearing numbers that product is going to be down like 90% to some of these stores. And that's super concerning because A, are they going to have enough product to run like pre-release events? And B, are they going to have enough product that a lot of these places took pre-orders to fill those pre-orders? And if they don't have enough product, how long is it going to take Ravensburger to get the product to the stores? So last week, this Discord post starts making the rounds on Twitter, through local game store Discords, all this kind of stuff. And I'm not going to give away the name or anything like this. If you want to find it, you can go find it. It is absolutely everywhere, Lorcana. But I'm going to read the two paragraphs that actually mean something. So the first thing I'd like to do on here is clarify some confusion around product availability in the United States. Following delays in shipping, we chose to ship our products in waves. This is different from our standard operating process and is being done to ensure that all U.S. distributors have enough product to support RPH retailers' pre-release events. Okay? Your local game stores don't have enough product to support pre-release events if they want to try and sell product. So you're making them choose between selling the product and using it in their pre-releases. So don't even start with that. We plan to ship additional units to distro centers and then onto retailers following the pre-release weekend. Okay, so it's going to come in on mass retail weekend, which means you've already shipped to mass retailers and there's no shortages there. For more details about the second wave, we ask that our stores please reach out to their distribution partners. If you are a store owner, I highly encourage you to join our retailer Facebook group, where we often share updates. We shared this information there first and wanted to share it here as well so the players have a better understanding of what's happening and can spread the word as they see fit. Smiley face! This is a complete lack of understanding of basic business. You have decided to make your LGSs the villains here. Okay? We'll stay with Disney terminology. Because you're telling the players, well, the LGSs are going to have product, and they should be using it for pre-release events. But then we're going to watch LGSs turn around and sell it because they've got pre-orders for it, and not hold a pre-release event, and say, well, we just didn't get enough product. And then when the product comes in, they won't hold an event because it's not pre-release anymore. It's releasing with the box store, the online retailer release. So it doesn't matter at that point. Ravensburger is continually tripping over themselves with this product. They have the ability to really carve out a big piece of this TCG market, and their continual failure to make sure that they don't shoot themselves in the foot is what's going to hold them back and continues to hold them back. So we'll see what happens this weekend with product. You know, I am scheduled to go play a pre-release event this weekend. We'll see if it even happens. You know, my LGS has to pick between, hey, we've got 12 boxes of product. Do we give it to the people that pre-ordered the product, or do we actually run a pre-release event? This is a store that probably gets 20 cases of product. They got 12 boxes. It's crazy. So, with that being said, I am going to jump off of here. I want to say thank you to Bruce Lockwood, Disney cast crew member Monique. Thank you for jumping on, saying hi. There was somebody else on here. Who was the other person? Where are you at? Where are you at? Where are you at? Where are you at? There was somebody else. Viral Streamers 0. Yeah, you sound like a bot. You said hello. Thank you for saying hello. But thank you guys all for joining me tonight on a little bit of a rant session because Disney just can't get out of their own way. Ravensburger can't get out of their own way. And look, they're both Disney products. So Lorcana's going to struggle. It's just going to continue to struggle with this type of marketing and with this type of fulfillment. It's just not good. It's not good. So yeah, but you guys all have a good week. I will talk to you next Monday. It's Labor Day here in the States, so we will be around and we will be talking Disney. I don't know exactly what time I'm going to go on. I think we got a picnic or something we're going to do, so we'll see. But I should be on at normal time, if nothing else. But past that, stay safe, stay cool, and we will talk to you next Monday. I don't know where I'm going on this thing. Bye now. Hey, we didn't have any guests again, but we're going to get into Fabled, and Little Dude's going to be joining the show to do some pack openings here over the next few weeks. So hopefully we have product. Thanks for Ravensburger. If you're looking for us on social media, you can find us in a lot of different places. The easiest is going to be over on Facebook at DPI Podcast for the show page, at PATM Disney Travel for the travel page. If you want to have a conversation, come find us on Twitter X at Disney Insights. That's where I do the most chatter and where I get the most rambunctious. We also have other Thank you all for watching, liking, subscribing, everything that you do. Have a good week.